Hi, my name's Sue and this is Sue Marie P, and I live in Sweden now, and today I'm going to share a moist Swedish apple cake, and in Sweden they call it appelkaka. Apples are in season now. It's autumn here in the Northern Hemisphere, and I decided to use Swedish apples. These are little red ones. I usually make it with imported Italian apples, but I'm trying to buy locally grown produce. So I'm going to slice them up later so they don't get brown. And the other thing in this video I'm going to share is a method of mixing called reverse creaming. It's where you put the butter and flour and all the dry ingredients together instead of creaming the butter and sugar. It's a foolproof way of ensuring that the cake is soft and moist and a really nice crumb. Anyway, I'll stop talking and start mixing. So we're going to throw in 150 grams of sugar. I'm just using regular sugar. I'm finding it hard to buy caster sugar, so I've just started using white sugar and it's working fine. So I'm just going with that. And in there we're going to add flour. So I've got spelt flour, 250 grams. And as usual, I'll pop other measurements up above so you can see. And into that, I'm just going to grab my notes off my computer here with my recipe because my memory is not always that good. So we have 125 grams of unsalted softened butter. I always just kind of chop that up about half an hour before I start. And I also turn my oven on. So I've popped my oven on to 160 degrees with a fan, and I'll pop some other measurements above. Into that, we're also going to put just a little 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. That's optional. We've got some baking powder. So we have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and we have bicarbonate of soda, or baking soda as it's known in some countries, 1/2 teaspoon. And I've been using what's called vanilla sugar here. It's really lovely and I like the flavour, but if you can't get it where you are, just pop in vanilla essence or extract, but that will go in later with the eggs. So now I'm going to put in 1 teaspoon of the vanilla sugar. Now there's so many different versions of this kind of cake. I've done a few other styles before, but to make it kind of Swedish, we're adding spices. So I'm putting in cinnamon. So I've got 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and this is optional. You can leave the spice out if you don't like it, and 1/2 teaspoon of cardamom. I just use the ground cardamom. And then we start whipping all that up together until you see the butter go into small pieces like breadcrumbs. I'll clean this up and try and zoom you in. Now I've mixed that around and you can see all the butter is like kind of broken into smaller pieces, like when you do pastry. Hopefully you can see that. And now I'll keep you zoomed in. What we do is we add the eggs one at a time. And I just mix that for about 30 seconds until it's combined, or not even that, maybe 20. And then we add the other egg, which I should have done into the container first. It's always a good way to check if you've got any eggshells. And if you need to stop and scrape, stop and scrape. Now I add the milk. I'm using 150 mils of oat milk. Keep mixing that on low until it's combined. I've also tried this with soya milk. I haven't tried regular milk because I don't really drink much, but I have tried with Greek yogurt, but it actually tastes better. It's lighter and fluffier with the milk. It's going to scrape all of that mixture off here. And now we don't want to overmix it, so what we'll do 2 20-second bursts. So I'll do it on medium now. Do another scrape. Then I'm going to do a 20-second on high. And that's it for our cake batter. So the next step is I'm just going to core these apples. And usually I take the skins off, but you know, I'm just going to leave them on today. So take all the cores out. So I usually do green apples, thinly slice them and peel them, because I find sometimes the green skins are a bit tougher. That large knife wasn't working for me. I'm doing a smaller knife. My little favourite Victorinox knives. So I'm just slicing them into little small slices. You can prepare these first and squeeze lemon juice over them, but I just find it's easier just to do them after you've done the batter. About 1 to 1.5 in the middle, and then I do some on top. Apples all chopped. Grab your 23 centimetre cake tin. I've lined it, greased it, lined it and greased around the edge. Now I'm going to pour half of the batter in. Now I have tried this in a 20 centimetre, but I like the way it cooks in a 23 centimetre. But you could also do it in a square cake tin. So just use your eye, do about half on the base, spread it around with the spatula. It smells so good already. And then I just grab the apples and I just lay them on their side so they're flat like that. Just zoomed you in so you can see what I'm doing. So just flatten them like that. Now the rest of the batter. Smooth that top edge over. Yeah, so you should have left more for the top. If you're doing this at home and you're following me, maybe you don't be so generous for the base, but this kind of cake's very forgiving. You're going to forgive me, cake? So the final layer, we grab the apples and I just poke them so the skin's showing on the top. Then the batter kind of forms up between them and creates this pretty pattern. How's that look? And then I've got a teaspoon of sugar here, so I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top. You can add more, or you can leave it off. And you can also add cinnamon, but today I'm not going to add the cinnamon. Now we're ready to bake this in our oven for 45 to 50 minutes. I'll keep an eye on it, check it with a skewer when it's done. If you swap sizes and do it in a square tin, you may only need about 35 minutes. I'm going to pop it in. The apple cake's all cooked and I've had it resting here for about 10 minutes. So I'm just going to take the ring off. Now this cake is so much better eaten when it's a little bit cooler. So I'm just going to let it rest here for maybe an hour or a little bit longer. But if you can't wait and you want to eat it warm, serve with a little bit of cream or ice cream and have it for dessert. But I'll just take that off. I have a little bit of a breakage here. Yum. I'm going to come back and do a taste test when it's all cooled down. So I'm back to do a taste test on my apple cake and I've had it cooling for about 2 hours now. So let me just cut into it. I'll do the bit where it's stuck to the paper. I can taste the cardamom. And the apples look so pretty on top. I think, Sue, I should have taken it off this bottom of the cake tin to cut. I've kind of messed it up. Let me scoop it up with my cake lifter. It's still warm. I've done a really poor job at cutting. I'll do a little close-up if I can. Let me just do a taste test first. Okay, so I've got my plate. It's fika time or afternoon tea time here. It's time to munch into the apple cake. That tastes really good. I think the smaller red apples are a little bit sweeter than the Granny Smiths that I've used before. That's really delicious. The texture is like a soft sponge, and then you have the little slithers of apple, which are a nice burst of fruit. I had a request for more close-ups of the texture, so I'm going to come closer so you can see. Hopefully the colour's not too distorted. So you've got this really soft sponge cake with layers of apple inside. And you can see where I've done a poor job of cutting. It's delicious, beautiful, fresh out of the oven. I forgot to say, the other thing you can do is if you want to serve it with a sprinkle or a dusting of icing sugar. Not Swedish, very Italian, but it's also a good way of making it look pretty when you serve it. So let me know if you give this recipe a go. Write a comment below. I love getting your messages, and stick around and pop a few other ideas for spelt cakes up above. And don't forget, if you're new here today, consider subscribing. All you need to do is have a Google account and you hit the bell, and then you will be notified as soon as I've got my new videos released. I do videos twice a week, Thursday night and Saturday night, and at 6 p.m. European time. And I'll stop talking and let you go, and I'll see you next time. Bye.